Okay, it's 2 o'clock, and our next committee is the Rules Committee. Those committee members are McKittrick, Fusco, Amobian, Connor, and Davis. We have all committee members present except for Councilwoman Davis. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Clerk Viviano. I'd like to call the Rules Committee to order. We have previous minutes to approve. If I could get a motion.
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor?
Favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed?
All right. We have two pieces coming in on the regular agenda. Clerk, if you could read the first one in there, please.
Item number 1 on the regular agenda is a resolution adopting the City Council social media policy, amending Resolution number 373, 2023 to supplement the rules of procedure for Akron City Council to add the City Council social media policy as an addendum and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. We have the Council President. Do you have anything further in regard to this piece?
I do not. I have not received any questions or concerns regarding the social media policy, but I do want to let everyone know we are planning on doing a training, right? So we will have someone come in, give council a training as it relates to social media best practices. And so we will make sure that all council knows when that will occur.
Okay. Would you like to go forward with this for now, or would you like to take continued time?
I would like for us to proceed.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments from any committee members? Any other council members? Committee, can I get a motion for this?
Motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a
motion.
Suspension of the rules.
Suspension of the rules.
Report. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll get that in front of council tonight.
The second item on the regular agenda is a resolution expressing opposition to the current electoral college system and promoting a majority rule system for the election of the United States President and declaring an emergency.
Thanks very much. I'd like to yield to the sponsor, Mr. Fusco.
Yes, please. Thank you. I'd like to request Mr. Garrett's name be added to this. He's requested that to me directly. I wanted to give council an opportunity to review this full well, understanding and realizing that this would not have an impact on the short term, given its election time. But I believe that it's in our best interest to kind of get the ball rolling. I was contacted by someone referencing this piece. I know there's other states that have been studying and looking at it. It's going to require a significant amount of effort and work, but I believe it would be worth it at the end of the day. And I'll make some other comments this evening as well, but I would really request and hope for support from council in terms of getting this rolling. One of the pieces that I think is significant in one thing law is that, as well as Sarah Viviano in advance, is that we're going to be forwarding this to other councils throughout, city councils throughout the state of Ohio, as well as the state house folk. And so hopefully this could gather some momentum and we could see significant change in the future. And I believe this is an archaic way of selecting our president. There's no other area that I can think of where something like this is done, other than appointments from individuals who are elected. So I would ask for passage this evening. If the committee would like to recommend approval, I'd appreciate it, and I'll make a motion for approval with suspension of the rules.
Okay, well, we have a motion. Does anybody else have any comments before we go further in regard to this? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for passage with favorable report, suspension of the rules. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll get those forward.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one piece coming before us on the new agenda. It's an ordinance authorizing and directing the submission to the electors of the city of Akron a proposal to amend section 68, 70, 105 and 106 of the Charter of the City of Akron to permit the consideration hiring of both internal and external candidates for the positions of police chief, fire chief, and their respective deputy chief positions, subject to the eligibility qualifications set by the City Director of Human Resources, in order to provide authority for the city to consider a broad and diverse candidate pool for key leadership positions with the Akron Police and Fire Departments, designating the positions of police chief and fire chief as members of the unclassified civil service, clarifying that whenever practicable, vacancies in the classified civil service shall be filled by promotion to be voted upon by the next regularly scheduled general municipal election to be held on November 5th, 2024, and declaring an emergency. Yes, we have Nanette Pitt, and we have Mr. Brian Angeloni here. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the rest of the members of the committee, President Somerville. We wanted to introduce this legislation today so that you would have as much time as possible for council to consider it. Charter amendments are complicated and often large and need full consideration, so wanted to give as much time as possible for a vote at the third reading on the 22nd of July, given the break coming up. But the Charter Amendment Committee, given the holiday last week, had some travel limitations, and so we would ask graciously that we could make a full presentation next week. We've had members of the public, members of council, members of local groups such as the Black elected officials of Summit County be representative on the committee that work toward this charter amendment and the legislation that you have before you being introduced today. And so we would like for them to be able to be present to make that presentation. We've also begun a public awareness campaign, including, as I mentioned, members of the public in that group, and would like to be able to have the opportunity to walk through the legislation with you, talk about that public awareness campaign, and we'll do so next week with your grace. And I would like to hand over to Brian to round us out. Thank you.
Cool. Sure. Just actually, I'll piggyback off of that quickly and not take too much of your time. But generally speaking, what we're trying to do is we're trying to work within the confines of what the Ohio Constitution requires in terms of timing. So in order to bring this to the voters this coming November, I believe it's the 5th, we needed to have this submitted to the Board of Elections no later than September 5th, and it could not pass before today, actually. So we have a window of time with which to bring it before the body for you to consider it, and then for you to pass it along. And as Nanette alluded to, charter amendments, they take a lot of planning and preparing, carefully crafting them, but once they're there, the actual ordinance itself is somewhat simplistic in the sense that it really is simply submitting that question to the voters to let them decide. So in any event, that's just where we're at on the timing, and we thank you again for your consideration in letting us present next week.
Thanks very much for that information. Short of anything that was brought forth to us today, if council members have any questions whatsoever in regard to this, I would suggest reaching out to Mr. Angeloni with any questions pertaining specifically to this. And then we will have a presentation by the administration more so next week to be able to address this. So are there any questions pertaining to what we've heard today at all? Okay. Could we get a motion for time on this then?
Motion to refer?
Motion to refer. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay? Okay. We'll put this in the time. Thanks so much. It'll be referred. And we have nothing else to come before rules. We will be adjourned.
Our next committee today is the Public Service Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, McKittrick, DeShazier, Lombardo, and Somerville. Looks like we have all committee members present. If we can have just a moment here.
Do you want to sit here? Who's that? Who else is on this? Hannah? No? James. Hardy's not here. James Hardy's not here.
Okay, we're ready here in chambers whenever you are, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, I'd like to call the public service meeting to order, please. All members are present, and I'd like to get approval of the minutes from last week, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Moving forward, we do have several pieces in front of us today. I'm going to ask Sarah if she could read each one in since she's in council chambers and I'm online. I appreciate that.
Sure. Item number 3 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for, and if awarded, accept and expend grant funding from the United States Department of Transportation for the Strengthening Mobility and Revolutionizing Transportation SMART Grant to improve traffic safety in Akron and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. And I do see we have our service director, Chris Luddle, with us. Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of committee. Yes, some of you may remember last year we applied for this same grant and we were unsuccessful. A lot of our grant last year, we were around safety and snow and ice and pavement sensors, and we went back to them and we talked to them, and Tessa's behind me and she's worked on this for quite a while with traffic engineering and Christine Junkie, and what we found out is it's more about the vulnerability of traffic intersections and pedestrian mobility. So we have refined this to, we have a high injury network that we've kept track of with AMAT since 2017. And they're pretty much all over the city, certain intersections that have a high pedestrian count. So what this grant will allow us to do is implement, and we're going to phase this approach. So this is $1.5 million we're asking for. There's no match by the city, and some of the features of this is the right turn on red. There will actually be signs that illuminate that no right turn on red at certain times. It will be timing of those lights. So when that pedestrian is given the signal to walk, they will have 6 or 7 seconds to get out in that intersection before that light turns for the vehicle to proceed. Those are some of the features. Some of the other features are cameras at these intersections that have a 360-degree angle. They can see all the way around, and they can signalize that intersection if there's a pedestrian in that corridor. It actually will help with our bike network too on some of the intersections. So just some of our high injury network intersections, and we're going to probably just start with the top 10, but some of these intersections, to give you an example, are Archwood at Arlington, Archwood at Brown, Arlington at North, Bauer at Britton, and that is probably because of East High School, Broadway at MLK, Brown at Waterloo, Cedar at Maple, Copley at Frederick, Exchange at Hawkins, George Washington at Waterloo, Hilbush at Triplet, South at Sumner, Superior at Viodum. So you could see they're kind of all over the city. And we've kept these stats with AMET's work, and what this will do is allow us to implement. And it also will cover some of our staff time, whether it's traffic engineering or it's just the engineering bureau. We can use some of these funds to supplement some of their labor as they use this grant if we're successful. The timing on this grant, we have to submit it Friday the 12th. We're going to probably do it electronically Thursday evening. So I will take any questions, sir, but I would respectfully ask to suspend the rules on this one so we can get this grant submitted.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Committee members, any committee members? I do see you. Any questions or comments?
I was just wondering, I know that speed happens to be one of the main issues around traffic safety. Are these as a result of that or because of the way that the intersections are formed?
Well, I think part of this grant is the timing of the lights, okay? Can we slow people down with this, by adjusting the timing of the light to get them to slow down? We do have some intersections that are not signalized, and we're gonna look at some things there too, like Glenwood and Howard. We have a tremendous amount of people going to the bus stop, but there's no signal there. Another one is Miller at Princeton, Hawkins at Thornton, Archwood at Neptune, Carpenter at Talmadge. So some of these high pedestrian counts, we're going to look at some of those intersections and try to implement some warning flashing lights for those people that are speeding through those intersections. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? With that, Chris did mention suspension of the rules. Can I get a motion for suspension of the rules?
I'll make that motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
All in favor of suspension of the rules?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on to the next one. Sarah, please.
Item number 4 is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the replacement of the HVAC system in sedimentation basins 1 and 2 at the Akron Water Plant and declaring an emergency.
Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of committee. Yes, some of you are familiar with our water plant. Up in the southeast corner, the incoming water from our Lake Rockwell goes through, the first thing it hits is our sediment basin. So we do have some outside, but the technology some 70 years ago was to have enclosed ones. So we have 2 sediment basins inside, and then we have 2 outside. Well, the 2 inside ones, as you can imagine, being enclosed, there's high humidity in those, and it causes things to rust and degrade. Well, these 3 air handling units, which are both heating and cooling, but they're mostly used for dehumidification, are well beyond their useful life. I mean, they have basically rusted out and beyond repair. So this was in the capital budget. This legislation will allow us to bid this work out and then construct these replacements. And it's not just the equipment, it's associated ductwork that has rusted out too. So with that, I will take any questions, and consent is fine on this one, sir.
Thank you, Chris. Committee members, any questions or comments for Chris? Any other council members? All right, committee.
Motion for consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion, a second for consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on to the next one, if you don't mind, Sarah, please.
Item number 5 is an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in accordance with Resolution Number 127, 2024, the 2024 Partial Depth Pavement Replacement Program, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this one and the next 3 are all to our 2024 resurfacing program. We have sent notices out to all the abutting property owners that will be affected by this resurfacing. This first piece that you had just read in, there was no objection, so there was no assessment equalization board hearing needed for this one. The next 3 we can talk about because we did have a few people that sent in objections to them. But with this, again, we'd like to get this going. So I would respectfully ask to suspend the rules on number 5, please.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions or comments for Chris? No? All right. Committee?
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Thank you. Moving on to the next one, Sarah.
Item number 6 is an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in accordance with Resolution Number 128, 2024, the 2024 Unimproved Street Resurfacing Program, and declaring an emergency.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. This is the unimproved portion of our resurfacing for 2024. And this is to approve the recommendations by the Assessment Equalization Board. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Committee members, any questions or comments? All right. Chris, you would like suspension of the rules on this one too?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Motion
Committee?
for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Sarah, on to the number 7, please.
Item number 7 is an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in accordance with Resolution Number 129, 2024, the 2024 Arterial Collector Resurfacing Program, and declaring an emergency.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. This is the arterial collector section. There again, this is just approving the report by the Assessment Equalization Board, the notice to proceed, and with that, I would respectfully ask to suspend the rules on this portion of the resurfacing.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions or comments? Councilman Lombardo, please.
Mr. Little, who is the Assessment Equalization Board? Like,
The members,
I don't need to know names. I'm just, are they from the administration?
there's citizens that are appointed to it,
Okay.
and it's just like one of our other boards. So I'm not.
Housing or?
Yes, and then we give our, a resident would come up or a property owner, and they would, if they object, then we would, talk to them. We try to talk to them before and sometimes answer their questions before they ever come here. And sometimes it gets worked out. Sometimes we miss like a homestead exemption, and an elderly person that's on homestead does not pay the assessment if they get a notice. And then we call them, and then, that is taken off theirs, But the way it works is we resurface the streets in 2024. There's a year that goes by because they're just giving an estimate. So a residential, for example, a residential property at $6.65 a front foot. If you own a 50-foot lot, it's like $335 or $330.
Okay.
And then you have 5 years to pay it, or you could pay it all at once. So after the year goes up, they get an assessment bill, they can pay it off, or they can put it on their taxes. So I think the total we had this year out of all the streets was probably less than 4 or 5. So really, we haven't raised these rates since 2009, so it's been the same rate. So we have very little people that, and a lot of them, like I said, when we get the notice, if we call them, a lot of times we explain to them what it's about, they understand.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions or comments? If not, Chris did like suspension of the rules, if that's possible.
Sure, I'll make the motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
So move.
All in favor for suspension of the rules?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on to the next one, Sarah, please.
Item number 8 is an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in accordance with Resolution Number 130-2024, the 2024 Residential Resurfacing Program, determining to proceed with the improvement and declaring an emergency.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this is the last piece. This is the residential portion. It's the same explanation. We're just approving the board's recommendation in the notice to proceed for this part of the resurfacing.
Thank you. Committee members? Councilman, any committee members? Councilman Fusco?
Yes, Chris, just curious, what's the time frame possibly on this
On the
construction? Yeah.
Oh, sure. I could give you a quick update of where we're at. So, this was we right-sized the program this year. So they had a considerable amount of streets from 2023 that they have worked on. There's a few that are still milled, and they're going to probably start paving next week on those. And then they're going to roll right into the 24 program. So the 23 program, we had a total of 168 streets, which is 35 miles. And like I said, they're all but done without those 35. And then in the 24 program, there's 74 streets and 17 miles that they'll get started on in the next week or so. We do have to get the contract through law, which is almost done, and this legislation will help us move that forward. So that's a total of 52 miles that'll be done by this fall. And obviously, this council passed the East Market Street resurfacing, which is a different contractor. They have all but finished all the inlet work. So they're gonna do milling at night on East Market and start paving. So they're gonna start in Ellet and work their way to downtown. That's about 3.5 miles of resurfacing. And obviously, when you look at lane miles, that's, East Market Street, that's quite a few lane miles, but it's 3.5 total miles of linear. And then obviously we did the Miller Road legislation that we partnered with Fairlawn. That's probably gonna start in about a month, and that's just under a mile. So that's Miller Road from 77 or Ridgewood all the way to West Market. So the other parts that you're gonna see resurfaced this year, not really resurfaced, but full resurfacing is up in North Hill. The RAC 34 separation, the contractor has 2 streets left to put the storm sewer in. Then that whole RAC will be totally eliminated, but they're gonna resurface all those streets. I think there's 10 of them from where the new storm sewer was improved or installed all the way down to Riverside, and anything they disturbed on Riverside will resurface. So quite a bit will be going on in the next 3 months.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lombardo.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. One thing piqued my interest. When we talk about resurfacing streets and we're doing, 75 miles. So you said something about lanes. So what's, I guess, the definition of a mile?
Well, like East Market's 4
Like
lanes.
width, I guess. I know what a mile is, but.
But I mean, if you're looking at East Market and you look at lane miles, okay, it's the 3.5 times 4, okay? So that's lane miles on East Market in that contractor, which is different than the other contractor, but those are lane miles. But
What do you
the
mean,
length
half?
of the road, so you have 4 lanes.
Yes.
But the length from Ellet all the way to downtown is a total of 3.5 miles.
Okay.
Travel distance, but then you have to take that, if you take each lane, 3.5, 7, that's 14 miles that will be resurfaced.
Wow, okay. I didn't
All right.
know that. I mean,
But a lot of our residential streets are just, we don't times it by 2.
okay.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
just
straight.
straight, yeah.
All right.
Okay?
Okay. Now I forgot my second question. Sorry.
Happens to me all the time.
It was
Me
the
too.
miles. It was the miles. Okay. Oh, well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving forward, Chris would like suspension of the rules on this one, committee.
Motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion, and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on to, I believe, our final piece, number 9, Sarah.
Yes, item number 9 is an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of West Portage Trail between the termini of North Portage Path and Treetop Trail by constructing and reconstructing curbs and concrete sidewalks and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. This is another project that this council approved a while ago. We have gone through the assessment process, and this is to approve the recommendations by the Assessment Equalization Board. I think we had 2, maybe 3 objections, which were handled at the hearing. This is, as you remember, from the bottom of Portage Trail extension. We're going to add that 6-foot wide sidewalk about all the way halfway up top of the hill there to intersection to pick up the residential timber top to allow those people to have a safe path down to the valley. So we have bid this, and we did receive a favorable bid by a contractor. A local contractor does a lot of concrete. So this will help us get the contract finalized, and we can get going on this project.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions or comments for Chris? Committee members? Any other council members? I do see Councilwoman Linda Mobian, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Luddle, so it starts down at Akron Peninsula Road and goes up to, does it go all the way up to Northampton?
No, it does not. It only goes up to that intersection. The money that we received in the budget, we are only going up to the first big intersection of Timber Top. So we have another application in You may remember about a month ago, we put an application in for more grant funding to take this sidewalk all the way up to Northampton, and we're waiting to hear how that grant comes out. That's our
So-
goal, to get all the way up there, though.
So if I'm going from Akron Peninsula, it's gonna be on the right or left-hand side?
It's, if you're traveling down the hill, it's going to be on your left. It'll be on the south side of the street.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? With that, Chris, you mentioned suspension of the rules, or you did not?
If we could, please, sir.
Okay. Committee?
I move for suspension of rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. I think that is it. Chris, thank you for presenting. I appreciate that. And Sarah, thank you for reading those in. With that, we are adjourned.
Our final committee today is the Public Safety Committee. Those committee members are McKittrick, Kamer, Lombardo, Hannah, and Davis. And we'll get started in just a moment. Thank you. Okay, again, Public Safety Committee members are McKittrick, Kamer, Lombardo, Hannah, and Davis. We do have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Clerk. I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee to order, and we have previous minutes to be approved. If I could get a message.
Motion to
Motion.
approve previous meeting minutes.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have on the regular agenda an old piece, and we have a substitute coming in for that today. It's a resolution requesting that the mayor compensate the roles of police chaplain and fire chaplain serving the city's divisions of police and fire and declaring an emergency. Councilman Kamer, would you like to expand on this, sir, since this was originally yours?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Yes, I still stand in support of trying to move forward with some compensation for not just the police chaplain, but also the fire chaplain. I apologize when I brought this in that I did not know we had an active fire chaplain at the time. I was used to always seeing the police chaplain doing a lot of other duties. So moving forward, we as council, we can, move forward and pass this, and hopefully the mayor can sit down and figure out some kind of compensation for these two positions, or we can always do it ourselves, and we can always look at it when the budget time comes. So with that, I do know personally, both of these positions, they do work tirelessly in their role, and there's a lot of events they go to and a lot of visits to hospitals, and I could go on. And I know, Councilman, not to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you can share a lot in regards to the fire side by being a former firefighter. So with that, that's really all I have to say.
Thanks, Councilman. Do we have any comments or questions by any other committee members or council members? Okay. I do feel that it would be rather inappropriate to proceed with one without the other, because they are very much involved in different aspects with the departments and the community. And so I think that this substitute was appropriately brought in. After hearing Councilman Kamer, what's the wishes of the committee?
Well, if we need to move on this, I will make a motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Okay, I have a motion for suspension of the rules. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll get that before council tonight. We have another resolution coming before us here, and it is approving and confirming the appointment by Mayor Malik of Crystal Jones to the Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board as established by Charter Section 68A and declaring an emergency. Who will be presenting on that? Annette Pitt, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Crystal Jones is well known in the community. She is a resident of Ward 3. We believe she would be a great addition to the Citizens Police Oversight Board. As many of you know, Ms. Jones served as the executive director and co-founder of Project Ujima from 2010 through 2020 and is still a special projects consultant for that group. Ms. Jones is also an attorney at law. She graduated and practiced in Texas, but is licensed in Ohio and has been for many years and is now semi-retired with an active license. She has served as adjunct faculty and as a visiting assistant professor of law at the University of Akron School of Law, which, as you know, is a distinguished law school. So to be recognized in that way is a great addition. She's served in our community in too many ways, too numerous to actually mention, but she has served, for example, as a mediator and a mentorship coordinator, just in so many ways has excelled as a communicator, would be a great advocate for the community. Representative from Ward 3, there is not currently a resident from Ward 3 serving on the Citizen Police Oversight Board. Currently, as you know, the board consists of 9 members. 3 of the members of the board are mayoral appointees with council's consent, and then 6 are appointed by council. Ms. Jones would be filling one of those mayoral seats, which Tristan Reed resigned from the board, and so it would be filling the rest of that term. I would be happy to take any questions, and with the consent of the committee, we would request suspension of the rules as the board is meeting this next Wednesday evening, and we would appreciate being able to welcome Ms. Jones onto the board at that time.
Thanks for that information. Just want to clarify a couple things. You say that there's presently nobody in Ward 3 that's occupied, okay. Can you tell me what wards have duplicates?
So there are 2 members of the board from Ward 1. There's 1 member of the board from Ward 2. There are no members of the board from Ward 4. There is 1 member of the board from Ward 5. There is no member of the board from Ward 6. There are 3 members of the board from Ward 7 and 1 member of the board from Ward 8. No members from Wards 9 or 10.
No.
And I can name those off if you would like or follow up with that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there, and correct me, there are how many total members then?
9 total members. 6 of those are council appointees, and 3 of those, apologies, are mayoral appointees to the board.
Thanks for that information.
Sure. We could pass on. Obviously, all have terms. Ms. Jones would be filling the rest of Ms. Reed's term till next 2025.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions by any committee members? Councilman Kamer, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. I just want to confirm the appointments from Ward 7. I'm going to go ahead and say there's only 2, but I could be mistaken, but I would like clarification on that, if possible.
Okay. Thank you. I would be happy to go back and check. By my record, Mr. Peoples, Ms. Castle, and Mr. Boyd all are Ward 7 representatives.
Okay, I'm going to say, and hopefully I'm not out of line or mistaken, but I don't think Mr. Boyd is from Ward 7 originally when we appointed him, but I'm not sure if he moved. But yeah, I would like to know that, especially for the rest of council, because having 3 representatives is kind of like, I don't think we need 3 representatives from Ward 7.
I can confirm that, Councilman, and get back to you.
I'd
Okay.
like, Councilman, I think Councilwoman Boyce might be able to make a clarification for us. I'd like to
great.
yield to her at the moment. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kent Boyd is a resident of Ward 9,
Okay.
for certain. Yeah, thanks.
So we have 1 Ward 9 and only 2 Ward 7. Thank you so much.
One more thing, Mr. Chair, please.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I really didn't want to bring this up today, but since we're discussing this, I want to welcome the new member, hopefully, if we all support that position and move forward. But I also, I appreciate the emails that we get from the board in regards to their meeting locations and the meetings that they hold. I do see that there's not a lot of holding meetings in Ward 7. So I would encourage, hopefully, if the board listens to this or watches this, I would encourage them to step foot in Ward 7 more and conduct some of their business here, and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Councilman. I'd like to recognize Linda Mobian. She has her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the corrections were already made that I wanted to point out, but I was so ecstatic when I read the agenda for today and saw that Crystal Jones was still available to continue to do her community service. What an honor and what a privilege to have her continue to serve. She's been a great addition to this community in any capacity for years, and I think she'll be a great addition to this committee as well. So thank you very much for appointing her. And as I said, she's been fantastic for a number of years in so many positions, but she brings a wealth of experience and knowledge and just good work. And I'm happy to see her join. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Councilwoman. Any other comments or questions from any other committee or council members? I'd just like to add to this. You know, I understand that it's difficult because to make decisions and selections because of who does and who doesn't apply for these positions and so on. But the way that the charter is designed, it's not designed where all of our wards could actually have a representative. And therefore, we would always have 1 vacant, but we do have other wards that are vacant. And I appreciate that the person's being considered here in Ward 3 is vacant at this time, so I do greatly appreciate that. But I think that it would be nice to be able to possibly consider any future vacancies, some of the other vacant wards as well, because I just think that, you know, we have areas that aren't represented. So to go further with this, do I have a motion from any committee
Mr.
members?
Chair, I'm sorry.
I'm
I have my
sorry.
hand up.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilwoman Somerville, please go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to say and kind of just echo some things that Councilwoman Amobian brought up, but I think there's a lot of council members that, you know, particularly myself, I've called on Crystal Jones many a times just to help convene conversations or when things became difficult in the ward and different issues and problems, and she always made herself available. And so I am just so proud that she is willing to serve. I think she is going to bring a wealth of knowledge and experience and be really helpful to the current board. So I just want to thank her for her service, and we're fortunate to be able to have her. Thank you.
Thanks, President Somerville. Okay, with that said, if we have no other comments or questions, do we have a motion from the committee?
Make a motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll get that out to council tonight. And we have one more piece coming before us today, before Public Safety. It's an ordinance authorizing the mayor as designee to extend grant funding that has been awarded by the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission for the Nicholas and Zachary Burt Memorial Carbon Monoxide Poisoning Prevention Grant and declaring an emergency. I see we have one of our wonderful district chiefs of the department here, and we'll have a presentation in regard to this. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to the members of the committee for having us here. Yes, the fire department has applied for and graciously been awarded a $76,400 grant to purchase carbon monoxide detectors so we can install them in our residents' homes. And we would like to accept and be able to expend the funds for that such purpose, and asking for a suspension of the rules on this as well.
I know that I greatly appreciate this coming in, Chief Moyers. It's one of my residents that had been wanting this, contacted me, was thrilled to hear that this was, going to be coming available and so on. So this is a great thing and greatly needed to protect our residents of our city. Do we have any committee members that have any questions or comments? Councilman Lombardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I don't know your name. I didn't catch your name.
Matthew Moyers.
Matthew
Moyers.
Warners? Nice.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Nice to meet you. So this $76,000 will buy the carbon monoxide detectors, but how many would that buy? And I guess you haven't, I don't want to take the cart before the horse, but,
Right.
as far as distributing to residents, there'll be a process for that too.
Okay, so we did have a program in 2020 that we were awarded $25,000 for. That purchased at that time 535 detectors, and we were able to install them in 220 homes. So this is pretty much triple that, and we're looking at roughly between 1,500 and 1,700 detectors.
Okay.
Installing in it at a bare minimum of 500 to 750 homes.
It's nice. I know it seems like the fire department, with the ambulance service and everything, seems like there'll be, time is of the essence. Not time is of essence, but it's precious time to do things like this.
Yes.
But anyhow, appreciate doing that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Councilman. Councilwoman Amobian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question was very similar to Mr. Lombardo. I was just wondering, is it a wholesale price that you're able to purchase these at? And do you have the ones, I know in my home, I think I have the one I just put in the outlet. Can people do them themselves, or they have to be installed in a certain way?
Well, we would install them from our community service portion of the Fire Prevention Bureau. We would come out to their house to do that. They're also going to receive fire safety education at the same time. The detectors we're installing are not plug-ins. They are with a 10-year worry-free battery, so they never have to change the battery.
Oh, okay. And is it a wholesale price you get, or is it?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great program. And how are people qualified for this? Is it based on income and?
Well, if you're a resident of the city of Akron, you can apply by calling our bureau. We also have partnerships with Asia Inc., the International Institute, Summit County Public Health. We would like to present this at ward meetings as well, so we can have sign-up sheets as well, and also from our own carbon monoxide call data that we go on, and with the Red Cross. When we install smoke detectors with the Red Cross, we're going to pick up people that way as well.
So do you have them set aside for so many per ward, or just people
No.
that call first come, first serve?
First come, first serve.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Councilwoman. I see Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say I support this. District Chief, I just wanted to let you know that over the years, even with the smoke detectors and the CO detectors, I have an overwhelming amount of residents. When I say overwhelming, I mean, it's a handful or more. They always speak highly of the Akron Fire Department in regards to this process. Kind, nicest people that come into these homes, interact with the residents, and when I hear stuff like that, it's really important. So I just wanted to say that hopefully we get this grant. Hopefully maybe the city can get some more of our own money to put into this, because this is a very important program. And then also, if you could go back and just tell all the men and women my comments, and I really appreciate their hard work, and I hear it firsthand from the residents. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Councilman. Chief Moyers, do we still get a lot of calls for service to check if somebody's carbon monoxide detector is going off? Do we still have a decent amount of those calls?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I just remember from the past that happened quite often, and thankfully folks did have detectors, whether it was an issue with the battery. But with these 10-year batteries, I'm assuming we're probably not getting a lot of error message like used to happen when they were low batteries and so on.
Correct.
All right. Thanks very much. I assume time is a little important on us to be able to accept this and get things rolling?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I get a motion for suspension of rules with a favorable report?
So moved.
And we have a motion and a second? Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Well, thanks so much for that information. We'll get that out to council tonight.
All right, thank you.
We have nothing further to come before public safety, and we will be adjourned.
That is the final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you. What's up? Haven't made it to safe landing yet?